Greetings, Stash Wyslouch here. Welcome to quick tip number 72. In order to gain access to all my online lessons, make sure to become a patron on my Patreon page. Today's quick tip: incorporate arpeggios into your flow. This quick tip is kind of a combination of quick tips number 69, 70, and 71. So in a musical situation, you might get exposed to somebody playing a chord, say a G chord, and you having to improvise, make up some sort of melody that sounds good against that G chord. Well, we've talked about it before. A G major scale will sound good. 1, 2, 3, 4. That was mostly scalar motion. G major scale. Something else that'll sound good: the notes that comprise the chord. So you could play, for example, a G major 7 arpeggio, the broken up chord, against somebody playing a G chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. All I want to suggest in this video is combine those two elements and practice making melodies consciously, exclusively with those two elements. Scalar motion, going up and down a major scale, and then the arpeggio motion, going up and down, for example, against a major chord, a major 7 arpeggio. Now, using the ideas from quick tip number 71, that is the three-prong practice routine: improvise, structure, and composition, I want to tackle this aim. And then I also want to use the idea from quick tip number 69, which is practice your 8th note flow. So we begin with a structure. Let's take a chord, for example, a C major chord. Good. Somebody's just boom chucking away on a C major, and you're in charge of making a melody. The structured aspect of the routine. Let's pick a position and then determine the scale and the arpeggio that we'll play. So let's say position 5, your first finger's at the 5th fret. Somebody's playing a C chord. So we're going to say you're going to play a C major scale. So I would say pattern 4E. Remember, all the patterns to my scales available to all my patrons on Patreon. Make sure to sign up there to check these out. The structured aspect of the routine. Make sure you've got the map work in your fingers, in your eyes, in your brain for a C major scale and the position you're in. Run it up and down. Good. Part 2 of the structure routine. We're dealing with arpeggios, not just scales. Make sure in that same position you can play a C major 7 arpeggio up and down fluently so that your fingers can see it, your eyes can see it, and so your ears can hear it too. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Maybe you'll run the scale up and then the arpeggio down. Maybe you'll run the arpeggio up and the scale down. Etc., etc. You can develop your own little structured exercises depending on where you're at with fretboard knowledge. All right, then we'd move on to the improvising portion of the practice routine. Take a backing track of just a C chord and practice, like we did in quick tip number 69, doing short, medium, or long 8th note phrases combining arpeggios and scales. Do it slow so you can really work it out between your fingers and your ears. Remember, we've already determined the zone, so we don't have to worry about moving around the neck. We just want to see what kind of creative possibilities are available to us with these very limited elements. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. just set the timer. Mess around. Really get into how that feels, how that sounds. Remember, if you did this every day, you'd start to really develop a melodic sensibility. Lastly, compose something. Sit down and write, for example, a 2-bar phrase that uses exclusively scalar elements and arpeggio elements. So that could be a phrase that I like, that sounds very C-like, that combines both arpeggio and scale elements. Now if I really want to exploit that, kind of combining structure and composition, I could stay in that same zone and say, do the same exact melody but in a different key. 1, 2, 3, 4. Try it in E. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. Making convincing and consonant melodies using limited ingredients like scales and arpeggios is a key incremental step to playing chord changes, series of changing chords. By just boiling it down to a couple of elements against one chord at a time, you can really develop a good sense of fretboard knowledge, your own melodic sensibility, what things about melodies attract you, and also gives you a good perspective on listening and analyzing other people's melodic sensibilities, and hopefully integrating what you love about your hero's music into your own music. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing to the YouTube channel, and thanks for becoming a patron on my Patreon page. See you next time.